welcome to Soulful Sessions with Rory, the podcast where we dive deep into the matters of the heart, mind, and spirit. I'm your host, Rory, and I'm thrilled to embark on this soulful journey with each and every one of you. Soulful Sessions is your safe space for introspection, inspiration, and maybe even a little revelation. Whether you're sipping on your morning coffee, winding down after a long day, or just seeking a moment of connection, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's soulful exploration, I want to remind you that Soulful Sessions with Rory is designed for entertainment purposes only. While we may touch on profound topics and meaningful discussions, it's important to approach our conversation with an open heart and a sense of curiosity. Life is a journey, and so is this podcast. We'll navigate the realms of self-discovery, spirituality, and personal growth. But remember, the insights we share here are not a substitute for professional advice or guidance. Always consult with the appropriate professionals regarding your unique circumstances. So, whether you're a seasoned seeker or just dipping your toes into the waters of self-exploration, get ready for a blend of wisdom, laughter, and a touch of magic in each episode of Soulful Sessions with Rory. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a soulful moment. Follow me on social media, IG at Listening Veteran, Facebook at The Listening Veteran, Snapchat, Soulful Sessions. To stay connected, share your thoughts, and be a part of this incredible community. Now let the journey begin. Sit back, relax, and let's fill our souls together. Today's soulful episode is starting over, hitting the reset button instead of pausing. Now, this is a time where I want to talk about how we tend to start over in life. You know, I don't have a problem with saying that I've reached the half of a century mark. And I can remember when I was in my 20s saying to myself, oh man, I have to do more. I need to do more. Or am I doing enough? And always having that feeling like there's so much more to do. Well, what happens when you set goals, you set desires, and you hit them literally in your 30s, you know, your early 20s? You on point. You got the job that you want. You have the family. You have the children. Like everything is just going great. And unfortunately, life happens. You know, you can lose a loved one. Someone could pass away. You can lose your job. You know, you could be in an accident and something terrible could happen. But there's so many things that can occur that you have no control over. Well, in my life, I had such an experience. I would say it happened twice. So the first time I was in the military and I was in a car accident. You know, somebody hit the back of my car. It flipped 4 times and I was thrown out onto the expressway. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, that was such a scary experience. Well, one, I didn't break a bone in my body. My truck was destroyed. But I was in the hospital for about 3-4 days and I was bedridden for 3 months. And in that moment, I had to ask myself, what have I accomplished? Where am I? What legacy am I leaving? And I felt so incomplete. I felt so afraid. You know, man, we don't like to use that word afraid because, you know, we want to be fearless. Well, I felt afraid. And I remember my friends and family, you know, basically supporting me and telling me, you know, hey, man, you know, we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you did this and did that. But I kept thinking, did I do enough? And so that changed how I looked at life. But I have to be honest, it didn't change what I did because I was constantly on the go, constantly trying to make things happen. Indirectly, I was in survival mode. I wasn't trying to be in survival mode. It just happened that way. Growing up in the inner streets of Chicago, you know, you kind of get to that place where you're more surviving than thriving. No matter how much money you make, no matter how successful you are, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And that's exactly what was happening to me. Fast forward years later, I retired from the military. You know, everybody would say, oh man, that's great. You accomplished this wonderful thing. You retired. That is wonderful. I remember prior to retiring, I had a few of my friends that did retire. They had the same speech. Hey man, make sure your money is right. Make sure, you got everything in order. Because when you get out, it's different. And I'm like, how different is it, man? I'm just going to give me a job and, I got this retirement money. I'm good. Well, I learned real fast what they meant. When you go from making over, 60, $70,000 a year to making under 20 overnight without a substantial savings, without proper investments, you find yourself starting over. You find yourself hitting that reset button. But here's where it gets tricky. Because in that moment, one or two things happen. You either A, you hit the reset button and you start over, or B, you hit pause. See, we are easy to talk about starting over, but nobody really talk about the people that hit the pause button. Now, the pause button is when you stop life and you start worrying, you start with anxiety, you literally stop moving forward because your brain has not processed how hard things are, how things have changed. How am I going to get out of this situation? Hitting that pause button is so dangerous. And I've watched great friends do it. I've watched family members do it. I did it. I hit that pause button and I was afraid. I was afraid to move forward. I was afraid to move because I have not been in this situation before. I am frightened. I am scared. I do not know what's next. How am I going to pay all of my bills when my bills equal this amount and I make half as much? How am I going to provide for my children? How am I going to be present in my children's lives? When they live so far away and I live here, gas is money. How can I make ends meet? When you're so used to being a certain type of person and you're so used to a check coming in, you don't think about these things because no matter what, God always made a way. Things always happen. So, but for the first time, you may recognize fear of starting over. And so you pause. You sit there every day, you wake up, it's hard to get out the bed. Bills are stacking up, rent is due, lights due. The relationship that you're in is all but dwindled. Why? Because you've paused. If you're a man, and we'll speak, and this is opinionated. If you're a man, she's looking at you like, what happened? Why aren't you the man that you used to be? Not recognizing that unfortunately you've tied your validation into the money that you make. You tied your validation into your material possessions. You unfortunately, instead of being a man, you were the job that you once held. For years, I was Sergeant such and such. And then all of a sudden overnight, I was Rory. I was Rory and nobody was looking for me. Nobody cared where I was or what I was doing. I paused. Now, lucky for me, even in my paused state, I still managed to do things that made sense. I knew that if I wanted a better job, I had to get a degree. And so I continued to go to school, but I was still pausing because heard what I said, in order to get a better job, I had to get a degree. Well, that's not necessarily true, but my mindset made me believe that. And so that was part of my pause. We all have magnificent skills. We all have magnificent abilities that we don't believe in. And we don't believe in them because there was somebody at some point that told you, oh, you got to get a job doing this. You got to get a job doing that, or you will fail. And we believe them. I'm not the first one to tell you that I used to want to be a rapper. And let my daughter tell you, she would love to just hear you tell me what my rap name was, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to appreciate that I had a dream once. And I think that if you have a dream or you had a dream, it's never too late to go back. Because that dream can become a multi-million-dollar business. But you got to have faith in yourself. So I'm saying this because in your pause, write down what you're good at. Write down the things that you do well. Write down the things that you enjoy. Because for every hobby that you have, it has the potential to make money. This is a hobby for me. Talking to people has the potential to make me money, right? So as I sat there and I'm in this pause state, I'm still in school and I feel unsupported. Could not date because I just had entirely too much schoolwork. And when I got the bachelor's degree, I recognized that with 20 years of military experience and a bachelor's degree, you still had a difficult time finding a job that supported the income that you once made. So I came up with this bright idea. What if I did something I love, like talking to people? I could become a therapist. Well, after doing that, I applied for my master's degree, and I worked odd jobs. I worked for a store where I sold appliances and commission only. And let me tell you, when you are over the age of 40 and you're standing on your feet for, 8 hours a day and you're working on commission only and you get to the end of 2 weeks and your commission check is $300, it make you rethink and reevaluate your life. Needless to say, I kept finding different jobs, and the commitment I made to myself with these jobs was each job had to make more than the previous job. And that was my commitment. I never stopped looking, and every employer, I told them I plan on being there. As long as there's growth and possibilities, I was planning on being there. Well, unfortunately, they weren't growing fast enough for me. So the possibilities were limited, so I left. But I was no longer in the pausing state because I had to get over feeling sorry for myself. I had to get over being hurt. Because let's be honest, you don't just pause because of losing a job. You don't just pause because you graduated from school. There are so many reasons that we pause as human beings. Like one of the reasons we pause, everybody know it, relationships. Our heart was broken. We were betrayed. And I'm not just talking romantic relationships. I'm talking about the relationship between a father and his daughter, a father and his son, a mother and her daughter, a mother and her son. And I'm talking just being parents or having parents. These relationships can put you on pause, but you have to recognize that you're on pause, because if you do not, then you'll be on pause for a very long time, and you'll turn around and you'll be asking yourself, what happened to my life? How did I get here? Now, that's tricky too, because that moment can keep you in pause. Because if you're steadily trying to figure out what happened in your life, then you're not doing anything. So it's safe to go on pause, figure out that you're on pause, and then move forward. You have to move forward. So that's when you decide, this happened to me. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good. Let me hit the reset button. Get out of pause. Hit that reset button. See, that reset button, that thing is a little tricky, because you hit the reset button and let me tell you, you might have to hit it a couple of times. Every job that you choose, reset button. Every new relationship, reset button. Every new degree, every new certification, reset button. But the key is that you're hitting the button and you're moving forward. Do not allow other people to tell you what your failure or success is. That's up to you to decide. I got certifications nobody even know about because I hit the reset button. And I'm not going to tell anybody about them because it's not important to them. It doesn't define who I am. If I got 15 certifications in one area, so be it. It's okay. I can do that, and so can you. That reset button is a wonderful tool. If something doesn't work out and you're trying to do it and it just doesn't fit, hit the reset button. Start over. There's no limit to how many times you can start over. People might say, oh, you just can't stick with nothing. Until you find your God-given gift, talent that you want to invest in, or until you believe in you, you keep hitting that reset button. And don't let anybody else tell you what that consists of. When I was going to school, I literally had people to, in a sense, laugh at the fact that I was in school after being in the military. When I worked at the store I was telling you about, I had people look down on me because I was working in this store after serving in the military. To even make snide remarks like, oh, you work here? I sure do. Wherever's going to get me a check, which I'm a caveat just for a minute, because I heard about the personality, the YouTube personality or TikTok, whatever she was, basically saying that a man working a government job is useless. That's me summing it up. I don't know exactly what she said. Or if you worked at a fast food place, you know, you're not a real man. Last time I checked, if you get a check and you working, you're a real person. Let's not just say man, say person. Age has nothing to do with surviving. Age has nothing to do with going out and try to make things happen for your family. You do what you got to do, whether it be Popeyes, whether it be any kind of clothing store. I don't care. You do what you have to do. That's part of hitting the reset button. Life isn't perfect. And what a lot of people don't see is that you could be on a trajectory early in life and it's great. Everything is working. You're with a company, you're making thousands of dollars a year. Everything is just wonderful. All it takes is one thing to happen. You know, I remember being a young man in the military, and a friend of mine was working for that firm, the accounting firm that was affected by the Enron crisis. Now, prior to that, you know, this friend of mine had a master's degree in accounting and was doing excellent. Everything was great. You know, and the conversations would be like, hey, Rory, what are you up to? Oh, you know, I'm in the military, collecting my check, my not quite minimum wage earnings. And then they would tell me about the thousands of dollars they're making and how great life is. And you fast forward 10 years later, and, you know, then the Enron crisis happened. It affected the accounting firms that were attached to it, and they're unemployed. And they have no idea how they're going to make ends meet. They were burning through their savings, and everything was not going well. They had to hit the reset button. But they first had to get out of pause, because the pause was preventing them from moving forward. They focused on what they lost opposed to what they gained. Regardless of who you work for, you still had years of experience in your career field. You still had a degree that validated your experience. See, sometimes we don't look at what we have. We look at what we lost. And that's why you have to look at what you learned, what you gained, the education from that experience. So I bring that up because that's what hitting the reset button is all about. When you pause is kind of like grieving. You're grieving the moment. You know, you're sad that you lost your job. You're sad that, you know, now you can't keep your kids into a private school. You know, you have to do things just a little bit differently. And so those things are natural, and I get that. But the truth is that you have to understand the difference between you hitting the reset button and you pausing. That's where everything comes into play. So once you hit the reset button and you're trying this new thing, don't be so hard on yourself. Yes, I know we're not promised tomorrow. Yes, I know things can change overnight. I get all of that. But the minute you start trying to rush yourself to get this to this level of success, that's when it's going to get harder and harder. Now, I'm not saying don't move with a level of intensity. Absolutely, I believe in that. You know, move with purpose. But do not beat yourself up because things aren't falling the way that they want to fall. You want them to fall. Don't beat yourself up because life isn't perfect. Instead, first thing, and if you listen to the other podcasts I did about dreams and goals, you recognize your dreams. When you recognize your dreams and what you want to achieve, you turn them into goals. Once you turn your goals, once you get your goals, you turn them into a plan. So now you have a plan to achieve your goals, which will satisfy your dreams. You hit the reset button and you got out of pause just by writing that out. Once you write that out, then you create a timeline. How long is it going to be before I would like to hit this level? I'm not just talking financial. I'm talking spiritual. I'm talking physical. I'm talking mental. And oh, speaking of mental, get some help. Starting over is hard. Get some help. Go see a therapist. Go see a life coach. I just happen to be both. But go see somebody. The point is that just like when you were in school and you took a test and you failed it, you go home, you study, and then all of a sudden you fail it again. But what happens when you get a tutor? When you get a tutor, things seem to work out just fine. Some people's tutors are their pastors at church, a deacon. Your tutor could be the therapist. It could be a parent. It could be a friend. The point that I'm trying to make to you is get help. When you hit that reset button, you have to deal with what happened when you were on pause. The hurt, the humiliation, the shame. And I'm glad I said that because there is shame in not being fulfilled. What we don't realize sometimes is that we're more worried about how people view us instead of really paying attention to how we view ourselves. I was embarrassed to not be in the military, to not be the guy that was succeeding. I was embarrassed to having to hit that reset button, the pause. I was embarrassed until I realized I am my own validation. Why am I concerned about what other people think of me? When we go through a divorce, we feel so ashamed and hurt and betrayed. Ashamed? What are we ashamed of? Being human? We're ashamed of living life? That shame is the pause button. You got to let it go. And that's why you get to hit the reset button, because you let it go and you moved forward. Hitting that reset button, dreams, goals, plans, timetable. You create that timetable and then you implement it and you move forward. So every day you have a reason to be alive. You have a reason to live. You're doing it. All you got to do is hit that reset button. And when you hit that reset button, don't wait for people to tell you you're doing the right thing. You look yourself in the mirror every day and you go, you're doing the right thing. I know you can. I know it's possible. Some things may seem improbable, but they're not impossible. Love yourself. Believe in yourself. Have faith in all that you do. Is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. It's not supposed to be. Life is full of challenges. Long story short, I hit that reset button. Fast forward, I became a therapist, got my private practice, and I have a new set of challenges. But I'm not going to pause. I'm going to keep moving forward. And I'm going to continue to hit the reset button, reinventing myself every chance that I get. And I'm not reinventing me for you or them or they. I am reinventing myself for me, because I have put a picture of the type of person that I want to be in my mind, my heart, my body, my spirit, my faith. And every day I move towards that. So write down the type of person you want to be. And then write down, what would it take to become that person? What would it take to be kind, loving, giving? What would it take to have a relationship with someone who's just as nice as you are? What would it take to travel the world? What would it take to do the things that you desire? What would it take to be a media personality? You got the abilities to change. You have the ability to change the world. Change it. Change your world. Live in your truth. And it's okay, because can't nobody else tell you who you are or who you're supposed to be. So what I will say is, do not be afraid to hit that reset button And I need each and every last one of you to get out of the pause button. That pause button does not mean anything well for you. So with that being said, I want to say thank you. Beautiful souls, for joining me today on another enlightening episode of Soulful Sessions with Rory. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might benefit. As we navigate the depths of introspection and explore the boundless possibilities of the human spirit, remember that your journey is uniquely yours, and every twist and turn is a sacred part of your story. Embrace the whispers of your soul, and may the echoes of our conversations linger in your heart, sparking a flame of self-discovery. Until we meet again in the realm of shared wisdom, stay true to your essence, stay connected to the rhythm of your soul, and always remember that you are a masterpiece in the making. Wishing you love, light, and infinite possibilities on your soulful journey. Until next time, this is Rory signing off with gratitude and reverence for the magic that resides in each and every one of you.